The movie begins as a narrator narrates how the city of Los Angeles had turned so evil that it seems the angels had forsaken the city a long time ago, and seems as if the Lord himself had prepared the people for a great slaughter. That is how evil the city is. Most of the people lament about losing their loved ones and call the cops for help. In this city, there are those whose teeth are swords, whose fangs are knives, who devour the weak out of the earth. A lady called Macy, who is a stripper at a nightclub, also reports to the cops about her missing brother. Then, a strange man is seen as he alights from his car in a secluded place. He opens his car boot and drops on the ground the body of a badly injured man. You don't need to ask his name. He has it inscribed on his chest already, Nash. The strange man closes his car boot and leaves immediately. Meanwhile, Macy has been watching the scenario. She rushes towards the unknown man on the ground and calls for help. Suddenly, she realizes the man was someone she knew, and she inquires from him who harmed him so badly, to which he mutters that it was Drake. While she is still confused, an old blind man joins the scene and tells Macy she can only help him and can't save him. A flashback reveals Corbin Nash, the main character in this movie. Turns out he is a member of the cops. He is having a drink with a white-haired man named Jack, whom he looks up to as a father. While they are still drinking, Nash notices that a man is staring at him. He fixes his gaze at him, making Nash feel suspicious of him because of his serious expression. This unknown man didn't stop gazing. He stands up and walks close to where Corbin and Jack are sitting. He calls Jack by his name and gives him a signal to leave. Jack understands this and leaves Corbin with the man. When the man sits, he claims he is a friend of the family, to which Nash responds that he had no family. The man then shows him a gun that belongs to his father, which he never used on anybody before he died. Nash's father loved to play baseball during his lifetime, and his mother was Irish. That was all he knew about his parents. But the fact is that Nash's father only plays ball as a cover to his battle with demons and destiny. His parents came from a long line of hunters of demons, and the man declares that Corbin was one of them. Corbin tells the man that he needs to visit a hospital for what he was saying was all nonsense. Still, he reveals that his parents were slaughtered while they were hunting and were killed in Los Angeles. Seeing that Corbin isn't ready to believe this man, Jack moves close to them and confirms all he said to be true. The man was there when his parents were slaughtered, and their mission was to kill the royal blood of the evil ones, which were two brothers. But the other one, Drake, escaped without knowing Nash existed. It was a big secret. Nash still isn't interested in all the fairy tale the man is saying, knowing it won't bring his parents back to life. The man gives Nash a ring and tells him it is his time, but all Nash does is stare at the ring. Back in the present, Macy gently cleans up Nash. His hands are tied with chains to the bed. That is her way of protecting herself as advised by the blind man. When Macy left him, memories of how he fought with some strange beings kept popping up in his head, and he groans in pain and cries like a baby before he faints. 6 months ago, Nash and his partner Frank stares at the pictures of missing people hung around the wall in the street. Corbin, by all means, is determined to find who was behind all that. The next scene comes up and we see a strange man-lady admiring himself in the mirror of his car, claiming he is beautiful and an angel. I'm sure angels don't have such weird looks. This man and his accomplice, who is also his lover, Vince, are cold-blooded killers, cannibals. A lady passes by their car and they chase after her. Strangely, the lady was so much attracted to him that he made love with her. Then he made the lady confess that he is beautiful and an angel. Again, he asks her to look at him, and unexpectedly, he bites her with his vampire teeth, and the lady dies immediately. Back in the present, Macy continues to clean Nash up. When he wakes up, Macy reveals herself to him and reminds him of how he had saved her while she was in trouble in the nightclub, and he fought all her foes like a superhero, giving each of them a falling punch. After that, she asked around who he is, and she is told he was the detective working on the missing cases. Then, they heard someone knock on the door. It's Carl, Macy's boyfriend, but she isn't interested in seeing him. Carl struggles to open the door, but Macy wouldn't let him in. In the process, Carl sights Nash on his girlfriend's bed, and he already brings out a knife aiming to slaughter him. But Macy is able to shut the door against him. Macy returns to Corbin. She reveals that her kid brother was missing a year ago, but she feels he's still alive. He was one of the 27 Nash is looking for, whose pictures were hung on the wall of his room. A flashback again reveals how Nash met with a guy. He punches the guy so badly that his face was ruined. It was the guy that reveals to him the two monsters walking around eating up people like meat, but Nash doesn't believe in monsters. He launches another punch on the man's face. Every punch that landed on his face makes him reveal different secrets about these two strange beings. He directs him to go see the blind man. Nash meets the blind man who claims he sees destiny. Hearing that, Nash tells him he never believes in destiny, and then stands up to leave. The blind man assures him he's gonna believe someday. Nash returns to his room and stares at the pictures hung round his room. Nash and Frank were out in search of these two monsters, but Frank seemed worried, as he was clueless about the whole thing. Corbin tries explaining to him that there's some kind of occultic in the city, but he couldn't understand him. While they were still talking, a car drove past them. When the car stopped, the two monsters alighted from the car, and immediately Nash and Frank got down from their cars with guns in their hands. They move close to them and announce that they are police, ordering both of them to freeze. The beautiful man seems to be angry, and these policemen, while holding their guns, seem nervous because of the strange look of this man and how fearless they were. The beautiful man makes fun of them, and before they knew what was happening, he appears behind Nash and launches a slap on Frank's face that took life out of him, leaving some kind of tribal marks on his face. The other cannibal attacks Nash. He shoots him, but the bullets just fell off like it was just stones. The man strikes Corbin, and that was it. It was daytime. We then see Frank lying unconsciously on the floor. When he came back to life, the mark from the slap was still imprinted on his left cheek. He stood up and picked up a chain from the floor, and then headed forward, not knowing where he was going precisely, but he kept moving. He got into a building all spilled with blood, and he heard a girl scream for help. These cannibals were busy stripping off the lady and ready to devour her. Frank goes in the direction of the voice, and he sees the men enjoying feeding on the lady. Frank couldn't stand the view, and he immediately ran off. Nash, when he regains consciousness, finds himself in a cell, and his hands are chained. He looks around and finds 3 other people. He begins to scream, but the man in the same cell with him tells him to shout all he wants. Nothing's going to change. To the outside world, these people just disappeared and were declared missing. Suddenly, the light begins to fluctuate to announce the coming of these evil men. Frank comes to the owner of the nightclub Nash usually visits and informs him that Nash is missing. He shows him the pictures of the missing girls who were dancers in the club. Frank finds the pictures in Nash's room, and he understands why Nash has been visiting the nightclub. In the cell, Nash had a serious fight, like some sort of wrestling with one of the men from the cell, and he killed him. He returns to the cell, and the man in the cell with him narrates how the beautiful man ate his son alive, and how helpless he was as he watched him kill his son. That's not criminal. It's pure evil. Listening to his story makes Corbin feel so bad, knowing that his parents were also killed the same way. The 2 wicked men came to the blind man. Then, we got to know that this blind man is an acquaintance of these men. Probably one of them in the past, but he repented. All this man does is remind them of the consequences of their evil. But the 2 seem to enjoy using their power to override humans, claiming they own the world. After that, they come to the nightclub. There they saw Carl, who was still glooming about seeing another man with his girlfriend. The beautiful man signals to him to come join him. I guess there is something that attracts people to this man apart from his looks, because his look is nothing close to beautiful. While he made love with Carl, Carl laments about how Macy must have been cheating on him with Nash at that moment. When the beautiful man heard him mention Nash's name, he grabbed his neck and took him to his partner, blaming Drake, their master, for not letting them burn Nash up, seeing he is still alive. Back to Macy and Nash. Macy prays to God on Corbin's behalf so he could be well again, while Nash, still in pain, remembers how he fought with the strange men who bites him brutally. At that point, Nash couldn't bear the pain anymore. A flashback again reveals how he was paired to fight with his cellmate, the man whose son was eaten. Nash at first refuses, but he has no choice. That place is not a place to choose what to do or not. The duo fight seriously, and when Nash was supposed to give his last punch to send him to heaven, he just couldn't, and suddenly, the man was dragged away. Nash at this point aggressively screams Drake's name and summons him to come face him. Drake reveals how he fed on his parents, and how his parents also killed someone dear to him, his brother. To Drake, Nash's existence was a joke, and he promised him he's not going to die by his hand, but rather he will be left to rot in the streets in order to end the Nash legacy with him. Nash was full of aggression and was ready to take it all out on the monsters that surrounded him, but they aren't foes to fight by exchanging punches. They rather devour him, eating his flesh alive. Back in the present, Nash was still in pain and was seriously struggling to breathe that he prays for death. When Macy came in, she saw his veins had turned black, moving in a strange manner. Macy rushes back to the kitchen to get a knife. She returns to him and cut herself with the knife and let her blood drip inside Nash's mouth. After a few seconds, he became violent and roared like a lion that Macy had to run away from him. Now, a new dawn is about to begin. Carl took the duo to Macy's apartment, and there they found Nash. The beautiful man smells Corbin's body and he confirms he's dead, leaving Carl alone with him in the room while they plan to burn his dead body. Thinking of revenge, Carl brings out his knife to stab Nash, but Nash unexpectedly comes back to life and holds his hand and bites him on his neck. Nash becomes a monster, having two pointed teeth like a vampire. When the duo returns back to the room, they didn't find Nash anymore but found Carl lying dead on the bed. The callous man still stabs Carl even when he was dead, already saying Nash will find them. The beautiful man perceives that Macy was hiding in one of the rooms. He took Carl's dead body to the room's door and ordered her to come out. Macy was already trembling and weeping. She knew what will become of her if she comes out. At last, the evil duo are able to take her with them, and Nash, who was already outside the house, sees them take her away in their car. After that, Nash meets with the blind man again. Now we can know who these cannibals really were. The blind man reveals that they are the founders of civilizations and the architects of historical movement. Corbin also meets with his friends, and he vows he was going to go after these evil men. He declines Frank's help, knowing that he had a family unlike him that has no one. The blind man further reveals that the evil duo work as collectors in the meat trade. They use humans for fighting like dogs, and harvest their blood and store them as a food source. That's because they aren't human. They have no feelings. The only way to kill them was to strike a stake through their heart. Holding a stake, Nash arrives at where these men are after killing all of their guards. After having a bit of a conversation, Nash asks them where Macy is, and they show him. The beautiful man tries to kill Nash and release some monsters to devour Macy. Nash manages to break from his grip and gives him a punch from behind. He gets hold of his stake and stabs the monsters that are about to devour Macy. As he is about to release Macy, the beautiful man stands to hit him from behind, but Macy calls out to him to watch out. The two have a serious fight, while the other monster grabs Macy by the neck. Nash grabs his stake again, and unexpectedly the beautiful man jumps out of nowhere and falls on Nash's stake. No one expected he would die that way. Funny enough, even at his last breath, he asks his accomplice Vince to tell him he's beautiful, and he quickly says it as if that is going to give him a spare life. Before Vince could get up from beside his lover, Nash stabs him too with his stake to make both of them continue their love life in heaven. Fortunately, Macy's brother was still alive. He frees himself from his chain and hands him to his sister, who was already weeping from happiness. Nash returns to the blind man and vows to try his best to save humanity from these beasts. Even if he can't save them all, he's going to be a savior sent by Lord himself as the final judgment for the evil ones. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more movies like this.